There we go. Wake up. There we go. Hey everybody, how you doing? It's been a long time since we've done a live stream here at Intrepid Exotics. And I'm typically known for my punctuality, but due to some technical difficulties here, we're running a little bit late, but we're here. And we're on. And we're on with a couple friends of mine here. We've got Dax from DNT Exotics. Glad you could make it out today, man. And we got Gary Tarpley from Constricted and Addicted. Always good to see you. And I'm going to continue to work through a couple things here. Make sure that everything's going to work for the rest of this thing. But so Dax, what is it specifically that you do, my friend?
Typically into reticulated pythons, nothing else. Did want to stick with mainland, but deciding to play into the Super Dwarf Dwarf game this season and see how that goes. You know, our love was for the mainlands, colors, and just everything in general.
Right.
But now we're definitely looking for SD and some dwarf stuff, and we got it. So this season we'll probably be able to produce 2 to 3 clutches of some 50%ers. So it'll be good.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, super dwarfs are definitely becoming more popular as people realize that 18-foot snakes are kind of tough to handle. And Gary, you and I, you've known me since I started this channel, man. Matter of fact, you were the first person to invite me on your show a long time ago. So I've been meaning to have you on. Tell me a little bit about what kind of animals you've got.
I'm primarily reticulated pythons, and first of all, thanks for having us on here. I appreciate it, and I really enjoy what you do with your channel, Tim. You really have a lot of educational and positive influence on animals that people want to push negative influence on.
Right.
And then the reticulated python, I own 7 reticulated pythons. I have a couple of boa constrictors, but my collection is really going more towards the reticulated python, and I started with super dwarf reticulated pythons. So
right.
And I ended up with a mainland retic here in the last few months, and I'm in love with her. I'm going backwards, right? Like most people want to stay with the smaller snake, and I'm finding this like huge enjoyment, and like I don't even know how to explain it when you've got a 10+ foot snake wrapped around you, and she's got free reign of you. I mean, it's I don't even know how to put it into words. But primarily reticulated pythons.
Right.
I've got 2 mainland reticulated pythons, and I've got 1 dwarf. And I've got 5 super dwarfs.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I remember we was having that discussion about retics a while back, and yeah, the ones that you've got are just doing awesome. It's been really cool to see you bring them on, man, and always so excited about them. And yeah, that's one of the things too that I focus on specifically is trying to keep as much positivity as I can and everything. Yeah, so many times when you hear about retics, it's so much negativity, and so many people have got. I mean, yeah, there's things that we got to worry about, like bans and irresponsible keeping and stuff like that. But if that's all anybody ever talks about, then that's all anybody's gonna associate with them, And these animals are just way too cool to do that with.
Yeah, it's also when. And personally for me, and if I say anything, I want to make sure that this is just my personal opinion of it.
Hey.
But it's when people get bit per se by a reticulated python, and then they put it on social media, and it's tagged with my 14-foot reticulated python just bit me, and I mean, when I see something like that as a reticulated python keeper, I do not think that's a cool photo right there. I think. That's the stupidest thing I've seen on social media.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's absolutely true. Hey, Dragon Whispers here with a $5 super chat, man. I appreciate that. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing good. So, couple quick things to point out about the gentleman that we've got on. Dax here. Unfortunately, his other half can't make it on because she's under the weather. I was hoping to meet her too. I heard she's a pretty awesome lady. But Dax is. What's that? Yeah. Dax is. He's a reptile show regular, and one of the technical issues that I had was photos. I've got some photos of his setups in Arlington and all that stuff, and hanging out with Aubrey and all them. Unfortunately, that'll have to wait for the next one. But so Dax is really active on that scene. And one thing that's really cool, and I'm going to leave a link to this in the description too. Gary is a musician, actually. And I had a nice clip set up from, go ahead and pronounce that for me because I don't even want to butcher it. Nevayan. That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure I got it right. So if we got any metal fans out there, man, Gary is just all over it, and I'll put a link to that video down in the description so you guys can catch that.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that video, the production quality on that thing was awesome. You guys must have took that straight to Hollywood to get that done.
It cost us a little bit of money, but nothing comes cheap anymore. So.
Right. Yeah, I need to make friends with those guys and have them help me produce my videos.
Got some quality videos out there, which is pretty cool, man.
Let me see if I can tweak the volume just a little bit here. So I got a question earlier. Somebody was asking me about breeding behavior in male retics. I guess she's got one and has heard different stories and stuff. And I told her that I'd mention it. Go ahead and bring it up on the live stream here. So, what would you expect? What's your experience been, Dax, with breeding behavior in male retics? Whether they're breeding, whether they're not breeding?
Yeah, males, when they come into season for breeding, a little more spicy. That's when usually, I hate to mention it because I never even put it out there whenever I get bit. But it's been one of the times that I've been bit pretty bad. Nothing crazy, just wrapped on my own for a little bit. But it seems to be they're just a little more spicy. It's either pull them out and put them back in kind of style. Definitely not the time to play with them, especially if there's a female within range.
Right.
I would definitely not do that. So my best bet would be to, like I said, just kind of keep it, short and quick with some of the males. So.
Right. Now? What months of the year should she expect to see them acting a little odd?
Usually I see that between like September and February.
Okay.
Yeah, because it depends. We have so many females here, so we have about 8 adult females, and we got about 4 or 5 males, and once, and they're all intertwined, so I like to get it going to where one female kind of gets their cycle going, maybe the next one will go follow as well.
Right.
So the males are always either on top or in between the females or wherever in their enclosures. So
right.
With that, usually going and usually between September and February, that's when their season I think goes.
Right. And they'll typically start going off food a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the females will just not eat at all. And I usually wait till the second week. What I'll do is I'll introduce the male. Once he's in, I'll watch for at least a half hour. Because once that tail goes up, she's not ready. But once that tail goes up and she's not ready, I'll pull him right out. I mean, literally in seconds.
Right.
Otherwise, if he's smelling around and she's not bothering with him, or she's not getting defensive or moving, I just leave him in, and then from there, my typical breeding is I leave the male in there for a week, pull him out, feed him, for 2 days, let him have his time, and then I throw him back in for a week again. So I continuously do that even through pre-lay shed and everything. I pretty much do it till she almost inverts.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we keep them in there as long as we can because you never know. It might not be that first lock. It might be that 300th lock. So
Right. Right.
never guaranteed.
I've got somebody back here squeaking at me. I've got the prairie dogs over in the next room too, and it was so funny because the U.S. Ark video that I did, I got about 2-3 minutes into it, and something happened. The prairie dogs started yelling. You'd hear it come through on the video. Oh man. So yeah, I've got a hold of Aubrey real quick just to see if he is able to jump on. He's probably really tied up with folks down there at the show. I'm sure everybody's wanting to go over there and look at them animals that he's got. Again, I wish I had the picture of that ocelot that you guys was holding down there, man.
Yeah.
Beautiful animal. Beautiful animal.
Yeah.
And I'm going to jump in real quick on the male retic question, only because I only have females, and I just introduced a male retic into my collection because, number one, I couldn't pass it up.
Right.
And personally, I'm going to have to get some education on this because, having one male retic, I'm not a breeder. I'm a keeper. I am somebody who is fascinated with the animal. I really do not have any intentions of breeding.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this new one that I have, as it matures, how it reacts, and what are going to be what's my game plan going to be consisting of, as far as where do I keep this animal in my house compared to all the other retics that I have that are female.
Right.
Because I handle my animals every day. Every day I am interacting with 2 to 3 at least of my snakes, and so most of my animals are in one room, but I have like my mainland and I have another large constrictor in my living room. So the last thing what I want to do is bring my male out from another room into the living room and possibly have, a situation where he senses her, and then,
Right.
I get into a situation that I can't handle. So it's going to be interesting. I made the decision because, I first of all, I just, I at this point in time right now, it's 6 months old, so it's less than 6 months old.
Right.
So I've got time to kind of figure it out and get a game plan together on what I'm going to do with this. So as we go along in this journey, I'm sure that I'm going to be posting updates. I'm going to be asking questions. I'm sure Dax is going to have a lot of information for me on this as well. Chris, who I bought the animal from, I'm sure he'll have plenty of information on it as well. And like I said, as I go along with it, I'm going to feed that information because it is a good question. Retics are wonderful animals. They're absolutely wonderful animals to keep. But when you have males and females, I've never experienced that problem with boa constrictors.
Right.
At least I keep males and females together, and I've never had any sort of behavioral problems because of the season, so to say. So.
Right. Yeah, and that's something I think that a lot of keepers that don't breed, uh, even people that don't breed and just keep, need to be familiar with the breeding cycles and so forth, because it's going to impact their behavior. It's going to impact, whether or not you've got females around. I've got my big male down there, and the only oddity out of him that I've noticed so far is he went off food for right around 5 months a couple years ago, and just refused, didn't want to eat at all. And then he finally just the male. He just completely refused to touch anything for about 5 months. So I'd offer him, every 2-3 weeks or something like that. He'd shut it down. And then he finally just picked back up, and he was back on his schedule.
Wow, that's crazy.
So,
I've never had a male go off. My males usually don't go off. They're usually hungry as hell. As soon as I put them back in by themselves for those 2 days, they're looking for food. They're like, oh, where's it at? Hurry up.
Right. Yeah, he's normally right on top of it. He's a chow hound, but it was the weirdest thing having him go off like that. And my female, I don't think she's the whole time I've had her. I got her when she was 5 foot, and she's pushing 15 now, and I think she might have refused once. So,
Oh, there you go.
yeah.
Another week. One more week and then try them out. Throw it back in. See how that works.
Right. So, if you guys do you guys typically have time to and this is something that we try and do on this channel too. We always talk a lot about breeders taking the time to really go over and educate the folks about the snakes that they're getting and things like that if they're just like first getting into them and so what are kind of some of the approaches that you take if you know somebody comes up to you and they say, "Hey man, I've had ball pythons for this amount of time and you know corn snakes and whatnot. I really want a retic, but I've never had one before, and I want to buy it from you."
We get that a lot, and it's sad because sometimes I have to turn people away, and it's not for the fact that I don't want to bestow you an animal that's going to grow in huge amounts of in the least amount of time. I just don't want to stick you with that responsibility. And we try to tell most people, if you've handled a boa, usually BCIs, because they usually get bigger, especially the females, we'll tell them, that a male retic will, generally stay, around the 10 to 13 feet range, and not as girthy as that BCI. So if they've handled that and they've worked with that for a few years, it's kind of a good thing. But then
Right.
it's also hard because there's also the people who, I got a 35-year-old guy who comes up to me who's worked with ball pythons, who has had a friend who has, who's had a, who's had experience, whose friends have, firms and they've played with them and stuff like that. And it's hard to tell a 35-year-old guy, that is strong enough, especially if he gets a hatchling, that, I'm not going to sell it to you. It goes, but I try to educate people first before I actually make the transaction.
Right.
We'll sit and we'll talk about it. My biggest thing is if they come to my table and they've done their homework, it's a plus, and I look at it as a plus. I just don't want someone coming to our table saying, "Hey, I want a retic, but I know nothing about it." Well, then I'm not going to sell you one.
Right. Right.
You got to do your homework. I mean, they're not animals that I've been lucky enough, or well, we have been lucky enough that nothing as bad has ever happened with us in keeping these animals.
Right.
We don't overload ourselves either, which is a big thing for me. I like to keep my animals, the big ones, I like to keep them in a certain amount of range of number, usually like 5 or 6 big females. I try not to go more than that. I don't
Right.
need I feel like once we get too big, I feel like I'll be disregarding the animals, and that's where the
Yeah.
tameness, the tameness and the human connection gets lost.
Hmm.
So we try to keep it to a minimum. I have a regular job like you guys do. This is not my lifestyle and not my money for everything. I have a regular job, so
Right.
I'm just doing it for the love of the animals and to produce beautiful things. But again, back to the whole thing. Um, we like to hear people, and we will educate them. I mean, there's people who are customers, not even customers yet, but they call me on questions on stuff all the time. I'm like, read, and then they're like, well, we're confused about this part, and we'll explain it to them, what's going
Right.
on, and everything like that. So it's we try to do the best we can, but I hate telling people no.
Right.
So it's just how you approach it. If someone comes up to me with an 8-year-old kid and the kid is terrorizing my displays and poking everything, and we want, we want a retic. I'm like, you can't even control your kid. No, no, sorry.
Yeah. Exactly.
I hate to say that. So,
Well, you got to,
it's a,
man, because they're
it's
gonna, at some point that kid's gonna open the enclosure when dad's not around and start poking it like
a,
that, and they're gonna have a bad day.
exactly. And the biggest thing, our biggest thing is if we know people who are going to keep them as pets, we try to push the males on them. This way, they're not going to get a giant 16-foot, 18-foot female, you
Right.
know, the male at least. And we also teach the slow grow. I'm not power feeding anything. I hate power feeding stuff, so there's a lot that goes into it. But, our big thing is education. We just want to make people aware of what they are, how they work. And I might tell you yeah down the line, but I'd rather you do your homework and read upon them and ask me
Right.
questions or ask anybody else, because you know, you're a great person to know in the hobby. I see your posts and I see people asking you questions about beginner stuff. You know your stuff. Gary's coming along the way too. He's learning all his stuff as he's going. I'm sure breeding will be down the line for him, even though he says no every week to me. No, I'm not breeding, and just like he said, I'm not getting any more. I have no room.
Yeah.
So we like to educate people first, and then eventually, I mean, some people we definitely, and if they don't come back, they don't come back. I mean, I laugh sometimes when I
Right.
see other breeders selling them something, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. So
Yeah, it's kind of, and I kind of feel for some of the folks. I've had several people approach me here over the last few months that have just happened across a retic, and maybe maybe that was their first snake, And matter of fact, I put out a video not too long ago where I interviewed two of them, and the one lady on there, the very first snake that she ever held was a mainland retic, and she took it home with her because the guy at the store said, "Oh, you're gonna get bored with ball pythons. Take this reticulated python home."
True
And
I don't use
statement.
it.
yeah, well, that being said, too, she owns a ranch out in California. She's got zebras and emus and
Oh,
llamas and
jeez.
all that. I mean, all that stuff. She's got a really cool spread. Awesome with horses. She's a law enforcement officer. So she's kind of got the spine and the ability to work with animals naturally. So it was pretty easy for her to kind of learn all that stuff. But I know it worries me when I go on sometimes, and people ask me what to do with their snake, and I'll be like, I can't tell you unless I'm looking at how it's acting. So
Mhm.
let's do a video chat and have somebody hold the phone while you open it up, and full well that if they've got a defensive snake, anything I tell them to do, they could get bit. You know, it's just, and it can happen to all of us. You reach in, you think you're good, snake's defensive, can turn around and pop you or something. But I don't know. I think it's one of the things that kind of worries me, and I don't mention names or whatnot, but we've all seen the 20-foot snakes that are punching at people coming off the eggs and whatnot, and might take a bite, and it's just a couple scratches, little pinhole. Oh, it's nothing. That's not always how it works, though. I think it makes people
No.
think that a bite from a big snake is no big deal, and they don't need to be afraid of it. And I mean, I've had a 16-foot snake bite and wrap me on a food response, and I got permanent tendon damage in my right hand now because of it. And I've had to bail other people out. I had one guy that got a couple bones in his hand broken from a strike, popping up against the glass,
Jeez.
and I also one guy I had to help him out of a neck wrap where he was completely cut off. If I'd have been 10 seconds later, he'd have been on the floor. But I mean, this was dealing with a lot of animals, a lot of not really well socialized animals. But I don't know. I think it gives people an unearned confidence, so to speak, in working with them. Because I really think you really don't understand how to mitigate worst case scenario until you've experienced. You know.
Yeah, it's hard when you think you're strong enough, and then no, you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we take some of our big girls out to put them in the shower to shed them, de-shed them. And I mean, when them girls don't want to go into that tub, it's
Yeah.
yeah. Me and Taylor are like, we just look like the Three Stooges just bumbling around with this big snake in our arms because they don't want to go in. But you know, uh, we do the best we can, and that's another reason. We push that whole human connection thing where handle it as much as you can. and play with it as much as you can and keep it out as much as you can, and learn to our one of our biggest things with our retics, our bigger ones, is we usually slide the door open and we leave them and let them come out on their own.
Yeah.
Sometimes they feel pressured when you're in there trying to grab them with a hook, and they don't want to come out, and it's not their time to come out, and they don't just want to lay down. So what we'll do is we'll just slide the door open, and you know, we'll just let that animal come out on its own. And usually at that time, they're halfway out. We keep an eye on them, and usually we can pick them up, and they have no problem with it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what I still do with mine. My female, every time I open up the door, I just kind of sit back and let her lay her head outside, and I just give her a couple minutes to consider, figure out what's going on. And once you do that, I rarely even use a hook with her a whole lot. Yeah. But of course, she has been known to go after the hook before, too.
Oh, yeah, they will, too.
One of my experiences with retics, I mean, new retics that you get, that you're going to get bit eventually. I mean, if I look at my relationship with Cora, who I got from Chris, Cora really wasn't handled that much. I had to really trust that getting bit, getting through all that, at the end of that, I'm going to have a handleable snake. And there were times during that I was afraid that I was going to sell her. I paid a lot of money for that snake. And the last thing in the world I wanted to do was pay that much money and say, okay, now I'm selling you because I can't handle you.
Right.
I had to walk through it. And it just took time. I invested the time in that. I took the precautions so that if I did get bit, it was minimized. I didn't want her to be stressed out. Certainly, I didn't want to be stressed out, because when you're handling a snake stressed out, they can feel it. So I did everything I could to walk through that, and I wanted to do positive handling sessions, 15 minutes every day, and it took me about 3 weeks.
Yep.
So finally, I wasn't wearing a big jacket. I wasn't wearing gloves. I got comfortable with her crawling on me and going around my neck, and now we're like best friends. But I also want to share that, even a very socialized snake, and you think, I take for granted sometimes that I'm getting this animal out, and it's perfectly okay. I put my hook down, I reach my hand in, and I get popped. Because I'm not reading the animal anymore. Now I've got this, my senses are lowered. I think everything's good. I start pulling out, and I get popped on the wrist. So it's gonna happen. You just gotta you gotta take it as it goes. Right now with this male retic, he didn't like me. He was cool at the show, but as soon as I got him home, all of a sudden he turned into like, hey, where am I? And who the hell are you? And yeah, you're big, I'm small, I'm gonna defend myself.
Yep.
And so while a retic still got a big mouth and a mouthful of teeth, so I don't like being bit at all. Okay, I do not want to be bit. But again, I've got this beautiful animal that I want to build a relationship with. So for the first couple of days that the snake's been here, curled up on my hand like a tight little ball and just short little tongue flicks. I put him in the bin. He's taking big old swings at me,
Yeah.
But once I get him out, yesterday was the first day that I got him out, and he was just like all over the place, just exploring, all of my other retics do. So I finally have got to that point once again where I feel that through consistency, through positive handling experiences, I am now on the way to having another very socialized reticulated python. It just takes work.
Yep. It just takes that patience to and people, saying the same thing. You're like, man, I've had my snake for 2 or 3 weeks now, and it's still scared, and it's still popping at me, and it's just like, well, yeah, that's expected, It takes some time.
You gotta work with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys.
Reticulated python, to me, in my experience, and I know you guys can back me up on this, they are absolutely the most wonderful snake to own. They have the best personalities. I think they're smarter than any of the other captive bred snakes that you can have.
Oh, yeah.
They really personalize themselves to their owners.
Man, they're smarter than a lot of people I know, dude.
I agree, man. I think they're smarter than me.
Man, Morbid just popped in a second ago and said he just had a 15-footer pop him in the face.
Oh yeah.
Man, I
Yeah.
hope it was quick and he let go quick.
Oh,
I haven't taken a
so
shot in the face yet. I've taken a lot of them in the hands and the arms, but
yeah, it's we try not to, like I said, we handle ours a lot. So it's
yeah,
we've been lucky. I think I've been, I it's just I like I don't even like. I'll be honest with you. I don't even post it. I don't tell anybody. People don't even know when it happens to us.
yeah,
So it's I kind of keep the whole thing down, but it is a reality and it needs to be spoken about. I mean it does. Yeah, but it's like any other animal. And we tell anybody else, you buy a puppy, he's gonna bite you.
yeah,
You know, whether it's playing or not, or defensive or not, you're gonna get bit. Cat is gonna scratch you no matter what.
hmm
So it happens. It's just an animal that has teeth. You're gonna get bit. But we just put it into letting them know that this is why you need the education, because you also need to know how to handle the situation if something does happen.
yeah,
We tell people anything over 10 feet we do not handle alone. It's always together. I do not take anything out, neither does Taylor, at 10 foot plus. And even then it's still a little iffy because
yeah.
some of our males are a little bit, they're a little stronger and they like it and they love the interaction, but then they get too happy about it.
Right.
So, but we tell everybody that, and if a single girl or a single woman comes up to us and they're like, well, we want to buy this. And I'm like, well, do you have a boyfriend? And they're like, has he worked with snakes? Have you worked with snakes? All right, let's start this education process over, because
Yeah.
you're not going to get one. I hate to tell you, a 5'3" girl is not going to be able to handle a 12 foot, retake. It's just
Yeah, I
impossible.
mean, size and strength does have something to do with it. I mean,
Yeah, it
a
does.
bigger guy is going to have a better capability of pulling a snake off than, yeah, that's
Hmm.
just a fact. Smaller people are going to be more vulnerable, need to be more careful.
Correct. Yeah, and
It's like
that's
I like
another
to tell
reason why.
people.
Good guy.
Well, I was just going to say, I like to tell people that they don't have arms and legs. You pull out a 10-foot snake and half of its body is wrapping around you. And reticulated pythons don't like just to stay in one spot. They like to go out. And when you've got a 10-foot plus snake on you that's wrapped halfway around you, it's not
Hmm.
trying to constrict you, it's just trying to hold on.
Yep.
Uh,
It's easy to get scared when that happens too, man. Mine, it's the funniest thing because when I've got my big male outside, a couple months ago when I had him out, he was over a shoulder, and he just had half of me wrapped. He didn't even have a full circumference wrap. He was coiled up here and just like a U shape, front and back. And he started to stretch out to go for a branch. And when he started to hang on, I couldn't take in a breath. And not a mean bone in his body. He wasn't trying to hurt me or nothing. He was just trying to not fall. And when he latched on, I just went, oh, damn. And you just get that. Yeah, you get that feeling like, man, I could just imagine if this was a 200-pound snake or something like that that legitimately thought I was a threat or something. And
yeah,
but it was
I get it. But
That's
we,
another
it
misconception that we run into is that these snakes are going to be 20 feet long and 200 pounds.
right.
And
It's
that's
the
not the
exception rather
case.
than the rule.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
Going back to super dwarfs and the education, I did a lot of research on super dwarf retics before I purchased my first one. And I really wanted to be sure that I wanted to jump from the boa constrictors to the retics. Because you guys have heard me say, I don't want to be later in life with a 20-foot snake that I don't know how to handle, right? I want to be able to give this snake a life for as long as I can, for as long as it's alive.
Hmm.
And even purchasing a super dwarf, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about super dwarf and dwarf retics that, oh, they're only going
Right.
to get 8 to 10 feet long. And that is a gamble. You are taking a baby snake and telling someone that, oh, its genetics will only allow it to get 8 to 10 feet long. You're looking at a sheet of paper that says the male was 4 years old and 8 feet long, and the female was 5 years old and 12 feet long. at 5 years old and 12 feet long, what's it going to look like at 10 years old? It might be 16 feet long. So it's just something that I knew as an inexperienced reticulated python keeper and asking a lot of questions. Chris really educated me on, hey, don't believe that this is what they should be at. They have the potential to get just as big because if you take a 50% Calatoa and you made it to a mainland reticulated python, you've got mainland genes in that reticulated python in the offspring. So even though you might have a 25% or a 50%, depending on what you're breeding and your percentages are, you still have the potential to have a 16-foot snake at the end of the day, no matter
Right.
what the genetics are telling you.
Well, genetics are gonna. The more of them get out there too, the more the genetics are gonna be diluted and misrepresented. You know, you're gonna if you go to somebody like Garrett Hartle, who's specifically and very intent on paying close attention to his genetics and making sure he knows what he's got, things like that. You've got a much better chance of having a reasonably sized animal than going on Craigslist and say, hey man, this is a 60%, 60% super dwarf and it's not going to get any bigger than it, and come to find out the genetics are all screwed up and now you got a massive animal in your hands.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, Garrett's good with that, and so's Eric Lee. And it's hard now because people come to our table always asking, it's like, you got a super dwarf? And I'm like, super dwarf what? And I just like to see what they say, because I want somebody who's educated as well. Because after these people come up and they're thinking these animals are only at 6 to 8 feet, and I'm like, it'll never happen. Wild caughts get that big, not as soon as you cross that mainland gene inside of the dwarf, you pretty much diluted half that animal.
Yeah.
So now you're up to getting to the bigger sizes. I mean, and even just the island localities, some of them are bigger. Champayas are bigger on the sides, Soleil are bigger. Those are kind of the bigger ones. That they can get full size mainland size, and people don't understand it. They just think because the name super dwarf is on the animal, it's going to stay small. I'm like, no, you have to do your homework. Like, our super dwarf animals that we have here are all from Chris Browning and Vital Exotics. Now, if you know anything about super dwarf stuff, probably the most legit name out there ever.
Yeah.
His animals are awesome, and all 99% of them are true to their genetics. So we have a few animals from him that will be breeding this year. So I know when people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, do you have a super dwarf? How do I know it's real?" I'm like, "Well, here's my paperwork."
Right.
The same way Gary gives it out, and we do the same thing. We'll show everybody everything they need. I don't have a problem doing that. And that's another thing, because now everybody's jumping on the chain of the super dwarfs. Now anybody could just label any snake on top of their table super dwarf. And the common people don't know. So that's why when people come over to my table, our table, I'm like, super dwarf what? Because that's the first thing. You should know what you're looking for. Don't ask me if I know what you want, because you're buying the animal, not me. So what are you looking for, and what do you want? And some people, like, after I tell them, they're like, "Oh my God!" And then I'm like, "Yeah, sorry to disappoint you, but."
Yeah, exactly. Them super dwarves are just. Aubrey showed me a couple of his the other day. They were just, for their age, I could not believe how small they were.
Oh yeah.
He's amazing ones.
Yeah, we have a male here who's 9 years old. He's a purple albino, 100% head antler, and he's 9 years old, and he's only 7.5 foot.
Nice. That's like a perfect snake for most people, right there.
Yeah, it would be, but he's a rarity. I mean, there's not many 9-year-olds who are 7.5 foot. I mean, it's
right.
I'm sure they're out there, but again, once you put the mainland blood into it, you've diluted that already. So
right.
And we'll see.
And it could be the last one in the line that stays that size.
Exactly. So it's hard. And they're not cheap, and that's another thing people are always coming to the table for. And it's like, because I tell them our breedings that are coming up, and they're like, "How much are you selling them for?" And I'm still selling them below cost, because I understand things are hard today. And again, this is a passion for me. We want people to have the animals that we produce. So I'm not going to ring everybody through the ringer. I'm sorry to say it, guys, but I'm not going to charge somebody $5,000 for a snake. It's just not going to
Right.
happen. So we try to work with people and help them out and achieve their goals and get what they want. So we tell everybody that, this is what we're going to have. And they're like, oh, okay. But then sometimes when we tell them what the prices are, they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, if you think, oh my God, to us, shop
Right.
around. It's a pricey game. It's a very pricey game. People
Yeah.
don't understand that either. That's a bigger one.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some really, really expensive animals in my day. Been in one room that could pay for several houses.
I know which one you've been.
Yep, that's good stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's really cool working with the newer keepers and so forth. Um, it's always there's always that pucker time when you're working somebody through something. I had this one fellow out in California. Um, he inherited a 14-foot retic. That was the biggest snake that he ever had, and he lived by himself. And the snake was not liking him at all at first, and and I mean, fortunately, fortunately, he's done good with it, and you can teach people, how to read them and how to handle them and stuff like that. But it always worries me because you've got to have that worst case scenario experience. If you're gonna have an animal that size, I think you need to have some type of in-person mentorship working with large animals. Yeah. So that way you know how to manage it. I get lucky with mine because, like my male, he was about 12 feet long when I first got him, and the place where I got him from, you'd walk by the cage and he'd slam the glass. And when I got him home, again, the leather jacket and everything, because as soon as I got him in the enclosure, I let him be for a little while. And every time I would walk by there, if I get too close, he'd start striking at shadows. And one of the first times that I opened up his enclosure, he was on the far side of it. I went in on the opposite side. He lunged across the enclosure, and then when I stepped back, he lunged about 6 feet out towards me. He didn't want nothing to do with me at all.
Yeah.
And
That's when he goes back in.
oh yeah, he stayed home that day, and I went and changed my shorts. But but after a couple months of working with him and all of that now, it's just a few years later, and that
Yeah.
relationship I got with that animal is amazing.
Yeah.
I
It's
never
awesome. I love watching Gary because Gary always puts on his animals and he's always showing how he takes them out to the horse round where he run, where they run the horses and stuff like that. And he's always got his animals with him and he's always
right.
out there with them, which is great enrichment. I mean, it's so awesome. It's just, to see that,
Yep.
that's the best part about it. That's what I like to see with people. Like Gary's a very good person to go for beginner people to understand stuff and explain stuff to. He's
Right.
good with that. So I like watching that with him, and especially like you. Your stuff is very educational, which is super duper good. Um, we just started getting into the educational stuff. We do stuff with Earl Jones from Lone Star Reptiles.
Oh, cool.
He's a great guy, bull python guy, which is the weirdest thing because we click like he's
Yeah.
one of my best friends in the hobby, one of my bestest friends. I love that guy. Um, he's and you wouldn't think that bull python retic guy got along this good. So we get
Right.
along great. And anytime he needs anything from me, big animals or whatever, he calls me right up or educational stuff. We go together. Whenever he needs, I'll do anything for the drop of the hat for that guy.
Right.
So it's fun. Like you were saying, education and teaching people stuff. We like to get the animals out there, like especially with Taylor. She loves getting out. Our Motley GC Loki, which is like our staple animal. Everybody in the world knows him.
Yeah.
And every show we go to, we have to bring him because I'm not lying to you when I don't have 40 to 50 people asking where Loki's at. So it's fun, but I tell people, he's the exception to the rule. That you have an animal that'll he's never out of the last 3 years he's never struck once, he's never fessed up, he has never done anything in the world, and he's one of the best animals, and people love that. And we try to show them that you could possibly get this animal like this if you just handle them right and take the time to learn them and avoid the situations if you need to.
Right.
It takes time, but people need the patience, and they need to understand that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight at all. I'm actually in the process of sending Gary over another login. Looks like his internet went down for a second.
Yeah, Gary lives in the woods, literally.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll get him back in. He should be popping back up any second now. Let me let him know.
Yeah, but you were saying mentorship. The cool part is we're like you. Like we spoke the other day on the phone, and we're pretty relatively new. We've only been around probably 2.5 years, and
Right.
the mentorship we've had has been amazing. And it's because I went in and asked people for the mentorship. It's not, it's even though, and I need to express this to all the new beginner people who are out there, that these big breeders, a lot of them are super duper cool, and
Yeah.
they will help you. They will help you, and they will answer questions. But you have to remember they have their lives too, so they're not going to be at your beck and call every day of the week. But they will
Yeah.
more than be gladly to help you. I mean, we've had Gavin Bowe and Amanda Bowe help us out. They're two of the biggest. I've had Chris McVickers, another one where, I mean, me and him talk every day. Like me and Aubrey's another one. Aubrey's he's been such a help to us. And I can't thank them enough. And you, Tim, you're I've been paying a lot of attention to your stuff now, so it's nice to see that. And that we want to show everybody in the hobby that it's not what they think it is, and all these posts and all these groups chats that are slamming everybody. It ain't worth
Right.
it. It's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? Let people make decisions on their own. I told you the other day, we were talking about a certain breeder. They have that person can have 400 people that he's taking care of like gold, and then a few mishaps here and there. Should
Right.
it should it tarnish him? No, but as long as the inconsistencies don't last, that person should be fine. You know what I'm saying? So it's we try to give everybody the best of our ability anytime. I mean, I'm literally up all day long, so our customer
Yeah.
service, I can guarantee you, I answer you as much as I can when I can. I don't even care if I'm at work. I'll stop work and I'll talk to people. It doesn't bother me.
Right.
As long as I'm not in the middle of an inspection or anything, but the city's there or
Right.
something. But yeah, but we try to help as much people as we can. We've actually gone into helping a few guys out here who live by us in Texas who want to start breeding. So we're paying it forward from what we've gotten from the big guys that we know and that helped us. So it's good.
Right.
There
Yeah,
you go. She's speaking, even though she can't talk from being sick. She's typing up.
Right. Well, we'll definitely get the we'll definitely do it again too once I get all of the bells and whistles working on here again.
Yeah, I get it.
There's nothing worse than being 2 minutes out from a live stream and all of a sudden all your commands just change. It's like,
It's not the first time. It won't be. It won't be the last.
oh
Technology.
yeah. That's the thing about making things really impressive and complicated. It doesn't take much for them to get really unimpressive and simple really quick.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I agree with you. Thermostats being one.
Right? Yeah, Gary's stuff should be coming back up in a second too, I guess.
Yeah, he's a good dude. We had the actuality of meeting him in Arlington. He came down, and it was a really good time. They're really, really solid people. We
Yeah.
need you to come down, like we said.
Next
You
year,
need to come
next
down to
year.
Arlington.
I've got a few more
Yeah.
months and got some things to get squared away, and then I'm gonna be all over the place.
Good. Good. It'll be nice. It's cool. The expos are fun. We just tell everybody that's where we put our brand out there. We let people know who we are, how we work. This is where we get to meet the people,
Hmm.
and that's the biggest thing. Because if it wasn't for our customers and the people who like us in general, we wouldn't be anything. So
Right.
that's how we look at it. We don't look at expos as I need to make money, I need to make that, I need to make this. We don't do that.
Right.
It's a marketing thing to where we want people to trust us, to like us, to see us in person,
Hmm.
and that's the best that we do. So it's always a good time. All the expos are great, fun times, and we enjoy them. So that's
Yeah.
why we do a lot. So a year,
Yeah. I
we
mean,
do a
it's
lot.
it's it's awesome to make money on stuff, but I mean, it's the same thing with what I do. I don't breed. I just keep and then do the educational stuff, but it's there's a lot better ways to make money online than an educational channel about reptiles.
Yeah, that is.
There's yeah, this is certainly not what you would call a get rich quick thing, and I can see how it's
No.
tempting for a lot of people, man. To
Hmm.
start putting up the provocative stuff. You put out a video, it might only get 500 views or something, and then you put out one that's a little bit less tasteful, we can say,
Hmm. Yeah.
and 30,000 people jump on it all of a sudden, but you know, it's just not the good. Not all attention's good attention.
No, it's not
It's
because, like I said, at our table, we get people who come over and they're like, "Oh, those are the retakes. Those are the ones that'll bite your face and they'll grow 25 feet." And it's like,
yeah,
oh, you've been watching too many videos of somebody, and it's not the way it is. And like Chris McVicker, and we have videos as well where we've put out where we have a video of us pulling out our first clutch, and
nice,
the girl didn't even. She just body checked twice. I just wanted to make sure she was comfortable before I did anything. I took my time with her.
right,
There was no rush. I don't need to rush her off to get her eggs. Her eggs aren't going anywhere. They're going to be
hmm,
there. So it was more making her comfortable and realize that I'm not trying to do anything. So
right,
we have a video out there, and Chris is the same way, Chris McVicker, and a lot of people are starting to do that as well. And they need to, and I believe that's a great thing to do, is because to show that you're not
yeah,
getting your face bit off by giant snakes, and
yeah,
it's just sad and sad and sad, and I hate it because it just tarnishes like our reputations. Because
hmm,
so if anybody ever, I mean, there's times we have been at shows and I'm like, Taylor, pull up the video, and she'll pull up the video and show people how pulling eggs are, and
right,
they're like, are you serious? And I'm like, I said, yes. Again, there are some moody ones. Don't get me wrong. This is not going to happen 100% of the time, but
right,
if you make the female comfortable, you let her know, and especially the 12 hours after she's done laying, she's still in the trance, you
hmm,
know, and again, you can easily injure an animal pulling them off the eggs, and a lot of people need to understand that. That's why I say we take our time. We
yeah,
give her the time to relax and de-stress her body, because you can actually turn a snake the wrong way and you can injure a female who's just laid. So we give them that chance to relax and get used to us and see that we're no harm. And by the end of 10 minutes, they usually just unwind themselves and we pull them off.
yeah,
So that's how we work. It's learning and patience again. It's the biggest
yeah,
thing with retics is patience. If you have the time and the patience, I believe you can be a great retic owner. If you don't, and you don't have the time to play with them, and you don't have the patience, get a bull python, because that thing's only going to sit in your hand and do nothing anyway. So
right.
which is nothing else,
Hey,
nothing against bull pythons.
we missed you,
Just trying to
Gary.
get on.
I think he's still trying to
I
get
think,
back in.
yeah, I think his internet.
But yeah, man,
But
that's
yeah, we definitely.
that's something too. I mean, any clutch that I've ever been involved in pulling was no. I mean, it was as simple as okay, lift the snake up, slide the clutch out, close the enclosure, and leave them alone. It's done. Nobody gets bit in the face. Nobody's got to wear the chainmail or anything like that. And it's I don't know. It's being respectful and doing proper handling is never going to get as much attention because nothing exciting happens. You know, when things are
I
going
agree.
right, it's just pretty chill. There's nothing
Yeah,
to be excited
it's
about.
it's yeah, which to me is a bad thing. I mean, it's I don't know. I just don't like being bit. Number one, I don't like showing
It
everybody
does
I've been
suck.
bit. Number two, it's I don't. That's ooh, look at me! I just got bit. Ooh, here's my video, and that's why I love the bull python guys. Again, nothing against them, but man,
Yeah.
when your bite videos come out, I'm just like, man. I don't put out mine. There's no reason for me to put out a bite video. I don't need
Yeah.
to. It's
Yeah.
everybody knows it's going to happen. I mean, I can tell you what to do when it happens, or I can advise you what to do if a bite happens and they lock and they wrap. There's certain things to do. But there's no reason for me to put it
Yeah.
up. I just think it just does more damage to us.
Yeah. I've touched on it a couple times. The one time I actually used a rope as a stunt snake, just to kind of talk through it and so forth. And then I had another one where I just showed a couple quick benign kind of examples and explaining what kind of happened to it. And oh yeah, let me make sure he's got his audio on. But yeah, I mean it's one of those things that you've got to be able to address with people, and you got to be able to teach them. They got to know how to
Yeah,
manage it.
you have to.
But it's just
It's
hard
hard,
to.
It's yeah. After videos that they see, it's just I don't
Right.
appreciate it. But
Yeah.
it is what it is, and we've learned, and people have learned us, and they've gotten to know us to see that we're a little
Right.
bit more than legit. It's we've come into the hobby in like a huge burst with energy. You know what I'm saying? And that was
Right.
my goal. It was we wanted to come in, make the hobby fun again. You
Yeah.
know, do everything we can to make it to make it fun, do fun things with people, hang out with people, get to know people, and let them know that our lives are normal just like theirs,
Hmm.
and we just handle big animals, and you can do it as well, given the time, the place, and the incidents, you can do it just as much as we do.
Yep.
Now breeding's a different story. We tell people, people are like, oh, can you get rich off of breeding? I will tell you, no, you can't. It's slim pickings on getting a lot of money like that. And first of all, your first few years, there's definitely no chance of that,
Yeah.
unless you're a millionaire and you have money already and you can afford to pay people to work for you and you can do everything else. Then maybe you'll produce a profit. But still, even then,
Right.
you still have to get your name out there.
Hmm.
You have to get the people to respect you. You have to get the people to know you. They have to know who you are. You can't just be like Joe Schmo. I have 30 female adults, all high-end animals, and I'm going to produce nothing but high-end babies. Well, nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
So that's what you
Not
need
going to
to
give
do.
a stranger 20 grand for a snake. It's just not going to happen.
No, nobody knows.
You can tell me it lays golden eggs and sings and dances and does dishes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
don't know
that's the
you.
whole thing. It's you have to produce your 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 stigma of who you are, how you work, and everything else out to the public, and that's what we've
Right.
done. We our customers are more than welcome to come to our place. Anybody who comes for the expos and stays, like Gary, for instance, that was the first thing I wanted to do. I was like, bring Gary over. Tell him and his wife Katie they got to come over.
Yeah.
We wanted them over to just to see, because number one, I love when people say, I don't have enough room for another one. Yeah, come on over, buddy. We'll see.
That's
You
my
know,
mantra,
now,
man.
now, now Gary just picked up like two more. So, so, so we tell people that, come on over, and the customers love them. They come on over. They love to get the fact that, they can open a tub and not get bit, and they can
Yeah.
play with anything they want because we handle all of ours, because we don't have an
Yeah.
overload. Again, that's what benefits us.
Yeah.
So that's where we've created the following that we have, and we just want to make everybody happy and realize their dreams and get them and have that chance to do it.
Yeah. 'Cause there's nothing like it, man. There's really not. I mean, anytime I get somebody that's never handled a snake before, I trust all of mine with anybody once I get them out of the enclosure. It's one of those things where as soon as their food response is broke, as soon as they come out of the enclosure, I'm 100% sure nobody's getting bit. I mean, they're just.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 99.99%. You're never 100% sure. But, but I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable with them once they get out. And anytime I've ever had anybody over, but even still, the first thing I tell people is, okay, this is an animal with 6 rows of teeth. It's really strong. You can mess up. You can have an accident. The snake can get a hold of you. If it does get a hold of you, this is what we need to do. And we just have that discussion right off the bat before they ever get their hands on the animal, saying, you could get a nasty bite right here. It could happen.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple people after I tell them that and then I tell them, I'll be like, you're perfectly fine. I'm right here with you, but in the eventuality, something unexpected happens, I want to know that you're ready. I want to know that you've at least got an idea of what we need to do. I wouldn't be putting
That's
you
what
in
I'm
close
saying. Like, with
proximity with
Gary's
an animal I
videos.
thought was gonna hurt you, but you need to know.
Yeah. Like I was saying earlier when Gary wasn't here. Gary, man, it's awesome how you show your animals going outside to the horse round, where you run the horses and stuff like that. You take them out and you have a good time with that. That's awesome because it just shows people that, outside enrichment is great for them. It,
Hmm.
I believe they get more de-stressed when they're outside, when they're able to roam in an open space, not
Hmm.
so much the enclosures. Enclosures are great for the animals. They like being in small. Most of ours love being in the small enclosures, which don't bother us. But to get them out and to be able to let them roam free for a little bit on a fence like you do with yours, dude, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love seeing that, and people need to see that. And that doesn't mean everybody go out and release your snakes now, but it's, it's give them that enrichment, and it'll help you as an owner in the long run.
I think it's important that if you're going to own a large snake, whether it's a boa constrictor or a reticulated python, that you don't just restrict it to even just the house. The some of us have other pets, and I certainly wouldn't just let my reticulated python run around on the floor in the house because, I mean, I have other animals, and something bad could happen. But when I take him outside, we have property here. We have 5 acres. Here's another thing I always do. I always test the heat on the ground before I set any of my snakes on the ground because it gets hot out here. You got 100, even if you have 90 degrees out here, you've got a sun that's been beating on the ground all day long.
Hmm.
It still could present a too hot of a surface for the belly of the snake. So
Hmm.
I take a heat gun out there. I make sure that the ground is an adequate temperature. And yeah, man, let them get out there, let them stretch, let them go as far as they can. I have hills. I'll place them at the bottom of the hill and let them go all the way up the top. It just really gives them exercise and enrichment. And I think for the animal, it's healthy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, a natural sunlight, if nothing else, to get them out there, some fresh air, some sunlight, and whatnot. It does mine a world of good. Anytime, my male doesn't push a whole lot. My female will push from time to time. And as soon as she starts pushing a little bit, I'll take her outside for an hour, bring her back in. She's fine.
That's
Yeah, that's
something
like
that
one
I've
of
been
the
doing with
breeders.
my female.
Hmm.
Mhm. It's like one of the breeders. If you guys follow on Instagram, it's Mr. Morphmatics, Aaron. He's out in California. He's got some beautiful animals, and I think the main reason why his animals are so beautiful is because he has these pens, sort of like Tom Crutchfield has for his,
Oh yeah,
and he lets all his animals out.
that's
And I
awesome.
mean, they're out. He lives in LA, so it's perfect weather out there.
Right.
And I mean, these animals get so much sun, so much freedom, and stuff like that. Man, I think it pays in the end for him on what he produces.
Right.
I think it does. And I mean, he's a big dude himself, and he's got some big animals. And I've never seen anyone act any funny, or as soon as he puts them in the pen, they just roam and have the best time in the world. And
Right.
it's amazing what just that little bit of outside enrichment will do.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's a weird thing too with my Nile monitor. Oddly enough, man, he I can get a harness on him, and once I get him outside out in the grass, he's instantly chill. He just cruising around. He'll continually try and walk back inside. I gotta pick him up, carry him to the other side of the yard. Sometimes he'll get adventurous and go out and swim in the stream behind the house and whatnot. And he's
That's
just
awesome.
so chill. But if I move him to a different place in the house that's not his enclosure, he loses it. Just absolutely. I'm still having such a hard time getting him comfortable in another part of the house. I can go in his enclosure with him all day, not worry about getting bit or anything. I can take him outside. But I just like with him getting hurt the other day. I'm starting to bring him up here and get him acclimated to the environment and stuff. And again, just got spooked. Ended up cutting his back. So yeah. I mean, he took a 2-inch gash on the back of his back from getting away from me and getting up underneath an enclosure, and he got on something. So he's just about healed up now, finally. But it's been a long process of him healing up, and I was just, I was really scared that he was gonna end up getting an infection or something. So I was nursemaiding him like mad, but but it's outside is an entirely different type of enrichment than anything else. Like I said, even the lizard loves it outside, and he can't stand it inside anywhere else.
We had a kind of a different experience with our tegu. We took our tegu outside, and she flipped out.
Yeah.
She totally flipped out. Now, I actually did some research on this, and I was told that I don't know if it's true for all lizards, but a tegu in particular, when you take it outside, it actually sees different shapes and sizes. The UV light does something to their eyes.
It's my understanding that's reptiles in general, that the natural lighting presents a different picture. Like they see you one way indoors under incandescent lights, and they see you a different way outside under the UV lights.
I found out just how fast a tegu could run.
They're
And
quick.
I did not know how fast a tegu can run. And thank God we have, like, our backyard is completely enclosed, so she wasn't getting out.
Right.
But she took off, and she must, I mean, I couldn't even tell you how fast she was going. She was going so fast. And I finally got her in the house. And when she was in the house, she was fine.
Yeah.
But outside, different animal. Different animal outside.
Yeah. Well, that Herp Society thing that was at with Aubrey and I and a couple other folks, I took my Tegu out to that because I was gonna kind of just have her out hanging out. I took her out of the bin, man, and she was way stressed out, so she just stayed in there. Somebody else had brought a blue Tegu that was a lot more tame, but and again, it's weird because when I'm here interacting with her at home, she's perfectly fine. She'll crawl out on my hand, sit on my shoulder, and lick my ear and all that stuff, but I bend her up, took her someplace, and it was just too much for her. And I was like, okay, well, she's going to stay in here for right now.
Man. It's like that big coral that Aubrey has. I mean, that thing is massive and so tame at the same time.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
ridiculous. It's
Oh, man.
Yeah, when he brings them to the shows, that thing just sits on that log and doesn't go anywhere. And it's like
Yep.
you said, I think the indoor underneath normal lighting kind of, I'd hate to see that big thing out in the backyard trying to run away.
Oh, I know,
But,
right?
That thing's huge.
Yeah. It's got a really long tongue, too.
Mm-hmm.
I found that out the hard way.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we was standing out there, and it's up on the log, and it's like right there in my face. And we was just, Aubrey was over here, was talking to him, talking to other people, and, Lizard's mouth is right here, and that tongue just caught me mid-sentence and tickled my tonsils, man. I swear he was laughing at me after that.
Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, that's it's you're lucky enough to live near him, so that's the good thing. That's the best part about it. Is that he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a great mentor. Number one, he's patient as anybody that I know can be patient, and just it was a pleasure learning from him. And like I said before, and Gary will agree, Chris is the same way. Super patient dude. Love talking with him. He's so down to earth. I love that guy. He's just, we talk every single day. Literally, it's ridiculous. But it's like I tell people, we're all out there to help each other. Just don't pay attention to the groups. Don't pay attention to the people bad mouthing everybody else. Because we have our haters. Like I was explaining to you on the phone the other day. There's people who I know that don't like us, but I'm sorry. You know what? Like we came to do a job. We came here to make everything better for people to have fun. make everything educational and fun at the same time, and have a good time doing it. If you want to be stuck in your old ways, that's your own fault. You know, it's, and like you said before, the newer breeders are cool because we put expansions on things. We look outside the box. It's, you know, why
Yeah.
don't we try somebody else's idea, you know, instead of sticking with one? It's, you know,
Right.
one person might be right with 3 items, and the other person might be able to, you know, give you a solution for the 2 out of the 5 that you have. It's expanding your knowledge. It's you
Right.
know, not being in a box so much. And you know, it's the best thing in the world, and people should always reach out to the good breeders and get those ideas and get the information from them, and the knowledgeable people as well. So this way, it just makes
Right.
them an easy. It makes it an easier hobby to deal with, and that's what we try to tell
Right.
everybody.
It should be, man. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be difficult for somebody that wants to get into the hobby to find somebody to mentor. You know,
Yeah.
You
it
know,
really shouldn't.
if
If
I
you can
may,
find somebody that's willing to sell you something, you should find somebody that's also willing to educate you on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
Correct.
interject on this real quick. It's like when I met Dax, I met Dax on social media. Uh, Very cool right off the bat. He wasn't trying to sell me anything. He was just being a friend, and I really truly appreciate that. Going to Arlington to meet all these people that I've only seen on social media. My wife and I, we were outside. We got invited by Dax and Chris. They said, "Hey, we're all meeting on Friday night before the show. Come on down, have dinner with us." I get around a lot of people, but I'm not really a social butterfly. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
I don't know. I have anxiety around people. So I'm sitting there thinking, what are these people going to be like? We've never met them. We're here with dinner, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of shitstorms going through my head.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, first of all, with Aubrey, my wife and I were kind of sitting there by ourselves. Aubrey sat down with us and sat there and basically for an hour just talked with us. So inviting, warm, friendly, wonderful, wonderful human being. Dax and Taylor, he'd come there, he'd stand with us, he'd talk, he'd interact with everybody, come back to the table. These guys really made us feel welcome. We're not breeders. We are not. I know Jack's going, not right now. You're not, but we're not breeders. We're keepers. I don't really like to say we're hobbyists, but like reptiles are a way of life for me. And
Yeah.
and these guys share that same passion and that same love. These guys made us feel so welcome from start to finish, right? And it was so easy to get more connected. I don't know that it's groups, cliques, or whatnot. Maybe it is a group, but if it is a group, it's one of the best groups of people that I've had the pleasure of meeting. And I don't just say that because Dax is here. I truly, when I went to Arlington and we spent the weekend with these people, I mean, it was life changing. It really was. They're not just a face and this in output on social media. They are truly who they are in person off social media.
Hmm.
And I swear to God, Dax, sometimes I sit here and go, "Fuck, maybe I need to buy a retic from Dax." you know, and
Nah.
the reality is, no, I don't. You're right.
Nah.
You're right. You guys are awesome people. Your family is amazing, and the people that I just ran into and met and talked with over the weekend in Arlington, it really truly solidified that we are going back to Arlington next year. I don't care how big Tinley is. We're going back to Arlington next year because I know that that's where I'm going to see Dax. That's where I'm going to see Taylor. That's where I might see Aubrey. I'm going to see Chris. I'm going to see Sarah. Any of the other people that I happen to meet that weekend, Christian, all those guys, we're going to come back because you guys really did a good job. You did exactly what you needed to do for me to make that return trip next year. It's like family, man. It's a weekend that turned into a family. It was wonderful.
Good stuff. That's why you
Yeah.
need to come down, Tim.
Yep. I'm working on it. I'm
Yeah,
definitely working on it.
you gotta come down. You gotta come down. I'd love to
Yeah.
meet you as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's gonna happen. Like I said, here in the next few months, I'm gonna start getting things squared away to where I can travel and whatnot. But I'm pretty isolated out here, really. There's not a whole lot of people that I've got available to sit with the animals and stuff like that. If I've got to go away really don't have too many people because I typically don't like people nearly as much as I like my animals. so I stay away from most of
There
them.
you go.
And the ones that I do befriend out here that I, hang out with, talk to, and stuff like that, they're not all reptile people. So you know, there's not many people in a close proximity to me that I would trust to come into the house and put Niles back into his enclosure if he got out. I'm about the only person around here that can do that, outside of Aubrey. And I'm sure there might be one or two scattered around that I haven't met, but it's I think one thing that I find that's so unique. I think one of the reasons why reptile keepers end up connecting so easily is, and I'd mentioned this in an earlier video. It was kind of philosophical, but I mean, in order to deal with large reptiles, you've got to really be able to look at yourself. You really got to be able to understand what you yourself are doing wrong, and have that humility and that self-examination and so forth. And I think people that are able to do that just mesh so much easier. You know, it's so much less likely to point fingers at everybody else. If we're all sitting in a room and something goes wrong, if the three of us are out in the field and something happens, the first thing we're going to do is go, man, what did I screw up? You're not going to go, oh, it was one of you guys. That type thing.
Yeah, no. No.
And I guess to oversimplify it, I think, and when you're working with 16, 18, 20-foot snakes and 5, 6-foot lizards and things that can, and, you putting yourself in that position, I really think there's just a level of self-introspection that folks have that do that most people don't have.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to. It's our responsibility to take care of the animals, so we do our best to do whatever we can. So it's usually, we don't blame anybody else. We blame ourselves. Usually, if anything ever happens,
oh yeah, never the snake's
I
fault.
can't blame nobody else. It never is. It might be, but it never is anyway. So,
Yeah.
But it's a good learning lesson to, be up and what to expect, and take that lesson and learn from it and go from there to make things better so it doesn't happen again. So
Right.
usually when you don't, people blame the animals. That's when they start mistreating them, and that's when they start just putting them in the corner and not caring anymore because my snake
Right.
doesn't like me anymore, kind of deal.
Yeah.
You gotta, you're the owner. That's the pet. You have to show that animal the respect, the love, and it'll all go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all
Just like
traits
any
that
other animal.
yeah. It's I I can kind of compare it a little bit to like a military style camaraderie, You do things that are a little bit bolder than a lot of people, and I don't know. There's a lot of similarities there. The only time you really start, I think, drawing a big distance between reptile keepers is once the popularity thing starts to take off a little bit, and they kind of get the celebrity syndrome, and or find the easy ways to capitalize on that stuff and make money. And I think they kind of pull away from the rest of us that's, just out here trying to help new keepers learn what they're doing, and making sure that we're selling to the right people and all that.
Which is cool for me. We love to see people, and I've learned that from, I'll tell you right now, Aubrey and Gavin and Amanda. They are people who love to see people succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? And that kind of rubbed off us on it as well. We love watching. I mean, when I have some, guys who have a proven pair, and they have eggs, and I'm like, awesome. I'm like, awesome. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do this. This is how you take care of them. You want to push them. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's how we want to be. We don't. I'm never too good. I'm never better than anybody. I'm not a professional. I've only been in this hobby for, like I said, 2.5 years.
Right.
Solid. I mean, I've always been a reptile owner, but just not solidly breeding and stuff like that. But I'll never be that person where I'm high and mighty.
Right.
Because that only lasts as long as you let it and how you treat it. So we're very humble people. Again, we just want everybody to be happy. I don't need the numbers. I don't care about the numbers. I don't look for the numbers. The only thing I just want to is get that whole retic attitude off everybody, and not hide things and give the information out. And Gary's the same way. Gary loves giving out the information, which I like. You weren't on before, Gary, and I said, for somebody who's new, and you being the newer guy too, it's awesome the people to go for you for, some beginner stuff as well. It's you've learned enough. You have a few animals now where you have that idea, and you notice stuff, and you read the animals. So it's well and good with that, and that's what I love about Gary. He's informative. He follows USARC, which is another big thing. Phil does a great job for us. I mean, we would be in trouble if we didn't have Phil,
Hmm.
and he's a very good guy. I love speaking with him. He's awesome, all around,
Yeah.
so we give props to everybody. I don't even consider ourselves any popular, and people like, you're everywhere. Garrett's like God. Garrett Hurdle's like, Eric Lee's like, Eric Lee's sending people to me, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, we're not that good.
Right.
But they obviously understand that we're legit people, and we're not trying to rob anybody or anything that's going to happen to us is you're going to get the truth out of us. We don't
Right.
produce all of our animals. We don't. I work with Aubrey. I work with Shane Costello. I work with Jake Klotz. You know what I'm saying? We help you, and this is where the camaraderie comes across. Where some of these guys have stuff, and they don't do 30 shows a year like we do. So
Right.
you know what? I'll get you. If you need help, yeah, send them my way. I'll get rid of them. It's not a big deal. And who doesn't want to have a Pruitt, an A&B Exotics animal in their house? Who doesn't want to have a Shane
Right.
Costello Purple OGS Sunfire in their collection? It works out for everybody. So that's how we do it. We're humble to everybody. We tell the truth. I don't hide nothing. So that's how we work, and I can't see people getting in that celebrity style, and it's just I don't get
Yeah.
it. It just never. I'll never let that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not one to get very starstruck anyway. Never been much of a fanboy. I mean, if somebody wants to, have a real discussion about the animals and stuff like that, that's cool. But I've been around some pretty interesting people in my life at some pretty high levels. So kind of kind of hard for me to get fanboyed about somebody. And I'll tell you,
it is.
it's been humbling too, man. In the short period
Yeah,
of time that I've had this channel, we talked about this the other day. Um, yeah, I started this channel, just because of the things that we're talking about today. With having something there for new keepers, um, that's kind of a real educational tool for them to help them get started and whatnot. And I mean, in October it'll be a year, and I already got that call from Garrett a little while ago to, you know, man, we need a video for the US Arc channel. Can you have it done by tomorrow night? I'm like,
that's awesome.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this is one of the most reputable super dwarf breeders in the world. It's like, hey, man. And it's really cool how welcoming the community is, man. And I just attribute it all to, like you say, just being honest, you know, and making sure that you're shooting straight with people and stuff like that, and making sure you're giving people good information, and when we're wrong, admitting it, saying we're wrong. I think the only sticking point that I've really got with people is on the live feeding issue, and because I kind of jump up and down on that quite a bit. I don't think it's really wise, when you're feeding large constrictors, to be throwing live prey in there with them, for a lot of reasons. And
Yeah,
so I catch some flack for that. I'm sure there's a couple people that don't like me because, I mean, for me personally, I I boil it all down to the welfare of every animal in the house. You know, it's better for an animal to be euthanized immediately than it is for it to go in there and suffer for X length of time. You know,
correct.
so that's kind of my whole take on it. And I think the times that you've got an animal that actually will refuse frozen thawed completely and will die if it doesn't get live prey is few and far between. Yeah.
Correct. And I'm with you on the live feedings. I don't I don't like them, and people don't understand that. One day they're going to feed that 12-foot, 13-foot retic a big rat or something, and that rat is going to rip that snake apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen what a rat can do flight or fight, and they fight, I've seen snakes' faces wind up beaten to death,
Oh
and
yeah.
possibly, and it's you're putting both animals in a state of such stressful anger and anger and everything that it's not worth it. I don't see it that it's pointless. But
Yeah.
you're cool because you fed your snake a live rabbit or something like that. One day you can find out that that rabbit's gonna rip your snake in half, and then it's
Yeah.
and if it doesn't grab it tight enough, and that rabbit gets to gnawing at a certain part, your snake's gonna have a big gouge in it. And now what are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Now you put both animals into a stressful thing. And
Right.
retics, remember, like Gary said, retics are very smart. And I believe if you do something bad to them and it's a consistent bad thing, they remember that and they hold
Oh
to
yeah.
that.
Remember.
So, you want to feed that animal something, he might not eat again. And now why? Because you fed him you fed him live.
Yeah.
And that scared him and ripped him apart. Now that snake's never gonna, now you've lost an animal that you've had for so long.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Definitely not worth the risk.
Never. Nah.
And it was, I tried pointing this out to a couple people too, that, there's people that have pet rats, pet rabbits, absolutely love them. If I've got like a 10-year-old little girl or something that's got a pet rabbit or a pet rat that they just think the world of, I don't want them to be flipping through YouTube and all of a sudden seeing a rat getting ripped to pieces by a monitor lizard, I mean, to people that keep those animals as pets, that's no different than us seeing a dog getting ripped apart by an alligator,
Right. And if I'd like to interject on that a little bit myself, and that I kind of go a step further, and I don't even like to see feeding period on social media, whether it's frozen thawed or not, only because of the same reason that some people keep these animals that we're feeding our reptiles as pets. And I think personally, just me, I think it's got the same effect, even if it's been frozen thawed and you're dangling it and watching that snake wrap around it. I still believe personally that puts it in social media as a negative light. You're feeding someone's pet to your pet, and I get it. I get it because I'm the owner. But there's people out there that don't get it.
Right.
And as long I won't watch it. I mean, it doesn't have any value to me. It doesn't have any sort of informational aspect when I'm watching somebody feed a frozen thawed rodent or live. I won't watch live, period. But
Right.
when you're any type of feeding, I think it just puts a negative light still on us as reptile owners, because somebody out there is going, "Hey, I've got a pet rat," or "I've got a pet rat," live or not, It's that fact. We feed our animals.
Right.
Dogs and cats eat dog food. But I personally, you won't see it on my channel or on my social media. I've thought about it. I see the big names doing it. I've seen, just leave it at that. I've seen the
Yeah.
big names.
Well, I mean,
it.
I've done it too. I've put up some feeding stuff too. So we diverge a little bit there. I don't take it as seriously. But yeah, I definitely respect where you're coming from.
Yeah, and it's I don't want to knock anybody for doing that. That's just me and my take on it. Is that
Right.
I want to make sure that if somebody's looking at something that I'm putting out on social media, they're not going, "Wow, that was I wouldn't want nothing to do with that."
Right.
I just want to make sure, because we already have, as reptile owners, no matter what we have, people see snake, they see lizard. Sometimes they're jumping on tables, they're running for their lives.
Yep.
They grew up with all these misconceptions and whatever, that reptiles are bad. I don't know that I have a job here, but my purpose on social media with my animals is to put them out as positively as possible. They're not evil, they're not mean, they're pets. They're beautiful pets. They're wonderful to keep. They give me enrichment. They give me fulfillment. And I'm not saying everybody go out and buy a reptile right now, but just know that you don't have to be as afraid of a reptile as you currently are if you just educate yourself a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, I've got a couple of them out showing feedings, but that's something that I don't even have the urge to, when it comes feeding day, I don't want to break out the camera or nothing. I try and touch everything a little bit, but like I said, I don't even, I can't tell you when the last time was I actually done a feed. But I think it's amazing. That in and of itself, you can overplay anything, but, and this is a good question right here.
Yeah, it is. I was just reading that.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you take that one. I'm gonna step out for a second, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. Is it able to eat? Can you continue? You can. We feed our retics, no matter what size they are, anything. Um, we include rabbits, of course. We have pigs. We feed them rats. We feed them guinea pigs. You know, it's up to you. They don't lose any nutritional value going with rats. It's just you're going to have to feed multiple rats as compared to one giant 6 to 7 pound rabbit. But that's up to you completely. Some people like to feed less weekly than having one giant meal over time. We try to play the in between card where we feed a medium sized meal and do it twice a month instead of one single time a month. This way, it gives them their stomach's always full and it gives them a little time to process the food instead of just one giant, one giant feeding. So, no, I don't think anything wrong with feeding them rats, mix it up, give them two jumbo rats and two extra large guinea pigs, and they'll love you for it. So I mean, that's not a problem with me. I feed them whatever they want and however it is. So again, it's all dependent on how you want to do it, and just as long as they're getting the nutritional value and they look good and they're not overweight, do whatever you want. I don't see anything with it.
Yeah,
Gary, you're not
I
up to rabbits
kind
and
of had
pigs, are
the
you?
same question.
Are you up to
What's
rabbits and
that?
pigs yet or not? Are you up to rabbits and pigs yet?
I actually have two rabbits defrosting in a bucket right now. And
Nice.
you know, this is actually, I think it's a great question as well because I asked Aubrey and Hugh the same question, there's a lot of misinformation on there, whether it's on social media, whether we're asking people, and you can ask this question and you can get five different answers. And I think that by going to the people that have been doing this for some time, it's proven that it works. Like I sat down with you, Dax, and I asked you this question, and you said, as long as you don't overfeed where there's this big lump in there, you can feed them twice a week. Just don't feed them, just the same size girth as the animal. So I'm that guy. I was the guy that was feeding once every 4 weeks on my snakes that are 5 years and older. And listening to you and Aubrey over the weekend, I'm actually going to change that this week. I'm going to start feeding them a smaller meal and increase it to every 2 weeks, where it's not power feeding, but it's actually keeping the digestive system active in the snake with smaller meals, and it just promotes healthy snakes. It promotes growth. I'm going to learn here. I'm learning that this might just be the way for me to go.
Yeah, I believe it's better that
Hi,
way. It's
Tay.
again, it's
She's doing all our heavy lifting in the comments down there, answering all the questions that we're missing because we're sitting here bumping our gums, and we really
yeah.
appreciate it. She's on point.
hmm it's amazing how everybody loves her too in the hobby. I mean, she's like people have said, man. I mean, there's times where she knows a lot more than I do, way more than I do. But she does her reading. She looks at stuff. She reads on things. She gets her mind prepped for everything. She knows her shit. Excuse my language, but and I can't ask for any better. And everybody loves coming to see her as well. So it's a good time. It makes it extra fun. That's the best part.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome when you got
You guys
somebody
are
who's
a great
100%.
team.
We try.
Awesome. Definitely a good thing when everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, it's Gary and his wife, they're the same way. She loves animals too. It's a pleasure. I mean, that's the one of the. I mean, I tell everybody this story, but I didn't get into this so late in my life. It's because of my the people I've had in the past, and it's it's I wasn't allowed to have this and I wasn't allowed to have that, and I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. And then when I finally met her, it was let's do this, and I was like kind of surprised, like really. And she's like,
Right.
yeah. And I'm like, awesome. And then all of a sudden I saw all the work she was putting into it, reading up on anything medical with them, like RIs, fluid eye, everything like that. And and what we can do to help the animal and take care of stuff. And I was like, man, she's into this more than I am. It was like the
Right.
best thing. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better partner. I definitely can. And to this day, as Chris McVicker always says, sorry, but she knows more than you do, buddy. So,
Hey, man, it's just like we always said, make a team so good you can't figure out who the leader is.
exactly.
That's the way it's got to be.
Yep.
I had to pop
Exactly.
this one up. He wants to know how he can
That's
get
for
his
you,
Nile
buddy.
monitors to stop trying to kill him. That'll never happen. You just got to survive, man. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how old your Nile monitor is, but I've seen Niles that are just so easy to work with, and I've had some challenges with mine. Just like I was talking about earlier. Um, I can interact with him in his enclosure just fine. I can take him outdoors just fine. But certain circumstances, like if I bring him into another room in the house, he gets really stressed out. And still trying to work him through that, because when you start with those animals, you're always told, spend all that time in their enclosure with them, and we let them come to you, and all of that. So I did all of that, and I was really hesitant to kind of pull him out and put him into stressful situations. Well, now he's over 5 feet long, and I wish I would have done that earlier. Because I brought him in here the other day, and when you lizard proof this room, this small little office that I'm in, and a 5-foot lizard gets stressed out, yeah. I mean, it sounded like a bar fight in here.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But,
Yeah.
it's monitor lizards can just go from one end of the extreme to the other, man. Like we was talking about with Aubrey's the other day, his Asian water monitors are just freaking amazing. His big male one that kissed me, sat there on that thing the whole time, no leash, no nothing, just sat there chilling out. Everybody coming out messing with it. And we was over at Aubrey's place the other day. He opened up the enclosure that had 5 hatchlings in it, and as soon as you open the door, man, it's just Asian water monitors all over you. I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to sit down.
Yeah.
They were just so much fun, man. They were just so gregarious and curious. And as soon as you open up the door, man, they're just right up on you.
Yeah.
And now monitors naturally have a little bit different disposition than that. But yeah, there's I'm actually for the lizard tortilla that was asking me about that. My next species spotlight's going to be on Nile monitors, so that's going to be the next one that I start working on. I still got a couple of them that I want to add to the retic series, but I can add those as we go. So, but yeah, man, the how do you keep your Nile monitor from killing you question is not a short question. It's not an easy answer. There's a lot that goes into these guys. I trust any big constrictor that I've got a lot more than I trust my Nile monitor. I really pay attention to him and stay on point so much more when I've got him out.
You know who would be a good answer probably for that, or might have be some sort of help?
Probably be Mike.
Would be Mike Stefani.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great guy, another great guy to
Oh yeah.
just open up and talk to, and he'll help you out. But Mike, yeah, he'll definitely
Oh yeah.
try to give you
Yeah,
some
I'm gonna.
pointers.
That's another trip I got to make is up to Mike's place. Keep saying, dude, when are you gonna come up here? Wow. Next year, man. I'm getting
He's
there.
a really good
Yeah.
guy, man.
Yeah.
Really,
I mean,
really good guy.
Mike's good people, and he's I can't say anything about what's going on up in Tinley right now, but because I don't know if it's actually been presented or not. But I know there's something going on out
I
there.
don't think he's put it out there yet.
Yeah. So time for me to just keep my mouth shut.
I'm waiting to see too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to hurry up, and I just got my merch store up and just barely in time got all my stuff in time to get it sent out. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna pull him in when I do my do the Nile monitor thing and do some episodes with him.
Yeah, he's a good dude, very good dude.
Yep.
Yeah, he'd be awesome. I'm sure Aubrey helped you too. I mean, it's. You know,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I know he's producing a lot of crazy stuff. So I know it's.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that I was supposed to be going over there here in another week or two, whenever things kind of calm down, and he's going to be around to put out a video. But he's got stuff that he hasn't disclosed, so I'm not at liberty to disclose it. So I'll see what he's open to talking about when we get over there. But
That's awesome. That'll be cool.
Yeah, it really is cool.
I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, and it's so funny. Something that's of all of the time and all of the videos that I've been making, Gary. I've got this thing when I hate trivia, because every time I hear a trivia question, I automatically think the right answer is the wrong answer, because I think if it's a simple trivia question, it's not. There's something in there that's meant to trip you up. So, and Gary's notorious for his trivia questions on there. Made me say the dumbest thing I've ever said on the internet before. Because he was talking about, I don't remember how it was phrased. It was something about boa constrictors swimming or sinking or something. And I was just like, okay, this is so simple. There's got to be some really obscure crap here that I'm getting set up with. So I said some BS about they sink because they're denser or something. I was like, I don't know. What's the other half of this?
Could be right, it could be wrong.
So what I would do is when I was doing interviews on my channel, I would play fact or fiction.
Yeah.
$5 for every correct question went to USR. And at the end of the day, I'm thinking, okay, even if they got all 5 answers right, $25, I want to double that. I want to make it a nice donation to USR. But yeah, we were talking about how powerful of a swimmer are boa constrictors. Do they sink or do they swim? And his answer was sink. Actually, boa constrictors are very powerful swimmers.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, anacondas. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. But that's the thing. It was one of those things where it's such a simple. I was like, no, there's got to be. I've got to guess this the other direction, because there's going to be some trick in here, and then there wasn't no trick. It was just really simple.
I think they're all good swimmers, because I mean, even scientific research has shown that all within the localities of all the super dwarf islands and the dwarf islands, that there's snakes that have gone from one island to another and have swam literally across. Yeah. So it's crazy, but they do it, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and in the bathtub they're funny too, because they love swimming in there, and I'm just leave them alone.
Right.
They go in circles and circles and circles, but we leave them alone. So.
Right.
But like awesome. That's another funny thing. People who put them in a giant tub with water and they hate being in there. Taylor has found out that leaving a shower running and not letting the water build up inside the tub, they love sitting there. They will let the shower run on them and not fight back.
Really?
And we found that out with like a few animals of ours,
That's
where
cool.
they literally, you put the shower on and they just, I guess it's massaging to them, but it literally, they stay there. I haven't had anybody try to get out or knock anything over. So
Really?
it's work. It's
That's
work.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I know Niles is like that. Every time I fill up his tub, man, he gets in there. He just can't stay away from the nozzle. I've got a full-size bathtub in there for him, and every time that thing goes in there, he just loses it.
He's under it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mine tend to fight to go in, but once they're in, they're fine. It's worth getting them out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
We have a couple of girls who get spicy when you try to put them out.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Oh, man. Well, I know Gary's got to take off here pretty soon. And unfortunately, since I ended up having little tech stuff, I don't know that I'm going to pull anybody in from Tinley if there's anybody available anyway. But, so we'll have to do this again. I know we wanted to get Chris and Aubrey and all them on too, so I'll get this set up again, and we can get them on board. That'll be kind of nice for everybody to just kind of hang out.
It'll be a good time.
Awesome.
Yeah, talk about positive stuff. No, that was one last thing that I wanted to hit on really quick too. Is, and I've known, you watch when you watch a lot of the ball python stuff, it's everybody's got their ball pythons out, cutting eggs, showing snakes, which is cool. They're awesome. When you watch a lot of the retic stuff, you see a lot of complaining, a lot of negativity, a lot of cases. And one thing that a couple of them that I've watched, man, I just kind of sat back and I bit my tongue and I was like, dude, let me get on. Let me talk about this. Is just like with that herpetological society thing that we did, where Aubrey came out and he brought his cow and the monitor lizard, and I brought a couple animals. A couple of the other guys out there brought a couple more. They talk about what we can do and supporting U.S. ARC, which is definite necessity. I've always got the link to that in the description of the video. So anybody that's watching this, get down there. Everything that you need to get your U.S. ARC memberships there. But in the U.S. ARC video, I'd mentioned that they can't do everything, and it's kind of our responsibility to help educate the general public in a positive way. And it's stuff, like I said, I just seen that one person was saying, what can we do? What can we do? Well, I mean, it's something as simple as getting in touch with your parks department or something and setting something up where you can just go and expose the animals in a safe way where you've got permission to be there to people that have never seen them before.
Correct.
That's something that I would really like to do more of, and I'd like to see more of. People that otherwise would be scared to death of these animals getting out and seeing a 14-foot snake and just walking up, and you hear all of the myths come out of their mouth at one time, and you kill them right there.
Yep.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, they've got this huge snake in their hands, and they're like, man, these things are awesome. It doesn't try to kill me. It's not going to eat me.
We do that. We do that at a lot of our shows. We'll usually bring one big one with us.
Yeah.
And we bring them out, and people are like, oh my God, and then we put them over in their arms, and they're like, oh my God, It went from oh my God to like, oh cool, oh my God,
Right.
So it's we try to do that as well. That's another big thing we do to let them know and see, how our animals are, And again, that's another big thing with our customers or people who want to stop by and see our collection. We let them come on over, and we've opened our enclosures, all of them, whoever they are, to let people reach in. Some people are nervous, and we let them know I'll reach in first, or if I need to do a little tap, so they know, and they'll tap, and once we tap them, they're good to go. But yeah, we don't shy from anything. We don't. Again, we trust our animals, and again, we're not overbreeders, and we have enough to where we know the animal's taken care of and done with.
Right.
That's what we do. And a lot of people's minds get changed. They bring partners. Husbands bring wives, and they're like, wait a second, how come that thing is like not doing anything? And it's like,
yeah. And he's supposed to be chasing me up the ladder and wrapping me up.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and it's worked. I mean, smart people will do that, because I will tell people, don't bring this thing home if your partner, your wife, your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, do not know about this. If you want to come over our house and introduce them to the animals, let them see the animals behind closed doors, let them see the animals, how they react with people. It's the best thing to do. It's like I said, and some people have left here with the opposite, their partner being like, all right, let's get it. And it just shows to prove education, and that's what we try to do, is educate everybody. The biggest thing. And again, like we tell everybody, donate if you can to US ARC, get a membership. It's not hard. They have the $5 a month one, which is nothing, and it just helps. It helps everybody, and it helps every other animal, not just reptiles. It helps every other animal that could be affected by the Lacey Acts. It's a hard thing, and I don't want to see everybody lose animals, or even people with fish. I'd hate to see that. You know what I'm saying? Such an animal that does absolutely nothing be taken away for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, it's going to have a hard time getting from your fish tank to the lake on its own.
Exactly.
I'd like to interject on US ARC myself, because I'm a huge supporter. My opinion is that we need members. The donations are great. They help with what they do, but the membership base is really what we need, especially when there's like 9 million people in America that own a reptile.
Right.
Some of these households have 2 reptiles. an average of 2. So USARC's membership is nowhere near those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So when they go in there and they're talking to lawmakers and they're talking to the legislature about bills that should or should not be passed, I mean, if we only have a 20,000 membership base with 9 million people in America that own reptiles, it's kind of like they
Mm-hmm.
need more people. I mean,
Right.
I've always been like, every once in a while I'll go on a little tangent. I'll purchase. I talked to Phil about this, as a matter of fact, because I would like to know how somebody like me could help somebody that doesn't have the money to get a membership, so that maybe in a year they'll save that $40 and get their own bronze and keep that bronze membership going.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I'm doing right now is the best way to do it, because they paid for it. It's in their name. They screenshot me a receipt, and then I pay them $40 for doing it. But that's what my mind says. We need the people. We need the amount of people to become USARC members. I'll say one more thing about this is that maybe not just reptile owners. There are people that are fascinated by reptiles. They never own one.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched people at Dax's booth in Arlington, and watching somebody hold a snake, and then the next person standing next to them, just like their eyes are wide open, and they're just totally intent on that person that's holding that reptile, that maybe they don't own any reptiles. USARC is not limited to reptile owners. If you're fascinated by reptiles, and maybe you don't have the room or the want to own a reptile, you can still be a USARC member.
Right.
And $40 for a bronze membership for 365 days out of the year. I mean, that's reasonable, man. I've spent $40 on
right.
on that I did not need. So $40 to support USARC for something that I believe in, money well worth.
Yeah, I mean, and reptiles aren't the only exotic pets. Just like you were saying, fish, birds, some cats, some primates that some people may keep and stuff like that. It's all stuff that they end up making bad decisions about. I mean, it's just not even the memberships too. Even the USARC YouTube channel, 7,000 subscribers out of 9,000. What would you say? 9 million reptile keepers. There should literally be 9 million friggin' subscribers to the USARC YouTube channel, because it doesn't take anything except getting on and clicking a button.
Correct.
And can you imagine?
Past Lacey Act, a lot of people have lowered their guard. They think, okay, well, now we don't have to worry about it anymore. But trust me, there's more to come. There's more that will happen in our community that we will need USARC for. It's been a constant battle as a reptile owner. Personally, I've only been a USARC member for 2 years. I didn't even know about USARC prior. But once I heard out about it, once I knew what they were about, I mean, why not?
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, just imagine how much more weight it would carry if Phil could go in there, put up on the screen, the
numbers,
the USARC YouTube channel, and say there's 9 million subs on it. There's 9 million registered voters that you need to sit here and listen to for a minute before you vote on this.
Right.
That carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, it definitely does.
All right, guys, I'm gonna have to cut out of here.
All right, sir.
Got some family stuff going on. Dax, so good to see you, my brother.
All right.
Yes, definitely, sir.
Yeah, and Tim, thank you for inviting me in, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you coming on, Dax.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, we'll definitely, like I said, I'll start putting stuff together. We'll get another one set up. I'll get with Chris and Aubrey and see when they get some time. I'd like to just do a big forum type deal, get several of us in here and just, let you guys share your experiences out there, so that, the retic owners can have somebody positive to listen to, instead of, woe is me, the sky is falling and people are going to steal my animals.
Yeah.
Throw some positivity out there with it.
Yeah, plus they'll be able to realize that these big guys are babies at heart, good people.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
it'll let them know that's how it is.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, hey, for everybody that came on, I know we wasn't paying terribly close attention to the questions coming up. but we had some help there from Dax's other half. She was a big help. We really appreciate it. And yeah, and we will be doing this again, guys. I'm gonna get back on a schedule of doing some live streams again. But
Cool.
you guys have a good one, man. Thanks for coming on, and we will talk to the rest of you guys later.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, thanks, Tim.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
everybody.
We'll see you guys.
Bye, Taylor.
Bye.